My name's Leo. I'm 22 now, but this story starts a little over a year ago on the day I graduated from university. It was supposed to be one of those days that you remember for the rest of your life, the kind that gets framed in photos and told at future family dinners. But when you grow up in a house where your existence feels more like background noise than something to celebrate, expectations have a way of shrinking. Still, I thought, maybe just this once, they'd show up for me. My younger brother, Marcus, had graduated high school the year before, and they went all out. They rented a banquet hall for the whole evening. They hired a photographer who followed him around like he was royalty. My dad gave this emotional speech about how proud he was of the man Marcus was becoming, and the night ended with my parents handing him this elegant box. Inside was a silver wristwatch with his full name engraved on the back. Everyone clapped like they were watching a royal coronation. When it came to my graduation, college, not high school, I got a text in the family group chat that morning. "We'll be there, don't worry." That should have been my first clue. They did show up, technically. My mom, dad, my uncle Brian, and my aunt Cheryl. Marcus didn't come. He was tired from a late night. No flowers. No photos. Not even a balloon. They sat stiffly in the back, barely clapped when my name was called. And when I came over afterward, they all just stood there awkwardly like I was a stranger at my own ceremony. My dad handed me a card with a stock image of a graduation cap and said, "Here, from all of us. Congrats." Then he clapped me on the back and added, with that dry laugh he uses when he's being funny, "You're lucky we remembered." I didn't laugh. I didn't even smile. I just stared at him. That's when Uncle Brian, who's always been quick to call me sensitive, muttered, "You've always been so ungrateful." It was the kind of moment where time doesn't freeze, but you feel like you do. Everyone else moved on. My mom started digging in her purse for something. My aunt was scrolling through her phone, and my dad had already turned away like the moment never happened. I looked down at the card in my hand. No one had even signed it. So I took my diploma, turned around, and walked straight to my car. I didn't say a word. I didn't look back. I drove until the university campus disappeared in my rearview mirror, and then I pulled over, turned off my phone, and just sat in silence. The kind that weighs on your chest like a lead blanket. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just went blank. You see, this wasn't some isolated oversight. This had been building for years. I was the oldest, but never the favorite. Marcus was the golden boy, star soccer player, naturally charismatic, always the one everyone bragged about. And I was the serious one, the quiet one, the one who stayed home and studied while Marcus got invited to parties. My achievements were always brushed off with a good job. Now what? While Marcus got framed certificates and surprise ice cream trips for getting a B- in geometry. I used to tell myself it didn't matter. That someday, if I just worked hard enough, got the right grades, landed the right job, they'd finally see me. That they'd finally be proud. But that day, sitting in my car with an unsigned card and a diploma no one had even asked to hold, I stopped believing in someday. That night, my phone buzzed endlessly when I finally turned it back on. Missed calls, voicemails, messages that ranged from "Are you okay?" to "You're overreacting." I ignored all of them. Until around midnight, when I saw a message from Aunt Cheryl. "What did you say to them?" "Your mom's in tears and no one speaking." That made me pause. I hadn't said anything. I didn't reply. Not yet. The next day, I got up early and drove to the nearby park. There's this hilltop there where you can see the whole town, and I sat there with a thermos of coffee, just trying to decide what to do. I wasn't angry, at least, not in the shouting, slamming doors kind of way. I was tired. Tired of always being the second thought. Tired of pretending a pat on the back could substitute love. Tired of being told I should be grateful for scraps while Marcus got the whole buffet. The silence from my parents stretched for 3 days. Then, on the 4th, I got a call from Marcus. I didn't answer. He called again. Then again. Then a text. "Hey man, mom's freaking out. Can you just tell them where you are?" I didn't reply to him either. Instead, I started planning something. You see, they didn't know this yet, but I'd already been offered a job one I hadn't told them about. It was out of state. Decent salary, great growth potential, and most importantly, far away. But that wasn't all. I'd also been helping out behind the scenes with some finances, my parents' finances. They struggled more than they let on, and over the last couple of years, I'd quietly started picking up some of the slack. A few mortgage payments here, an overdue car insurance bill there. It wasn't a lot every time, but I kept the lights on more than once. They never said thank you. I never asked them to. It wasn't out of duty. It was habit. Guilt. Hope that maybe, they'd see. That hope died the day they told me I was lucky they remembered. I hadn't told them I stopped paying. So I waited, and waited, until a week later, my mom called. Not to say sorry, not to ask how I was, but to ask, Leo, did something happen with the mortgage company? We got a notice. Are you sure you sent the last payment? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply. And then I typed, you're lucky I remembered, right? Then I turned the phone off again. What happened next? That's where things get interesting. The fallout didn't happen all at once. That would have been too easy. No, it started slow, like a leak in the ceiling you pretend isn't there until the whole roof caves in. When I turned my phone back on 2 days later, it was like someone had set off an alarm in the family group chat. My mom had sent a wall of messages, starting off polite and confused. Hey honey, I think the payment didn't go through? Maybe a bank error. Then shifting into more frantic tones, Leo, please call me. This is serious. They said they're sending another notice next week. And finally, the passive-aggressive guilt trip. I can't believe you'd do this to your own parents. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed at that last part. Everything they've done for me? Like what? A card from the clearance aisle and a pat on the back? A lifetime of being compared to Marcus like I was some knockoff version that never quite measured up? I didn't reply. The next message was from Marcus. Dude, are you ghosting the whole family? Just call mom. She's losing it. Still, I stayed silent. And then, the real unraveling began. That weekend, I got a call from the mortgage lender. Technically, the account was still in my name since I'd helped them refinance during COVID. My parents had bad credit back then, and I had offered, naively, stupidly, to sign as a co-borrower. They couldn't have done it without me. And now that I had pulled my payments, they were getting the consequences they'd been shielded from for years. I didn't pick up the call from the lender either, but I did answer when my Aunt Cheryl rang again. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. She just asked, softly, Leo, what happened? I could have told her the truth. I could have said, I got tired of being invisible. I got tired of giving and getting nothing back. I got tired of being the safety net no one thanked. But instead, I said, ask them, and hung up. Later that night, I packed the rest of my apartment into 2 suitcases. I left the furniture. I'd sold what I could online, donated the rest. I threw out the last bag of groceries and dropped my key on the counter. The moving truck had already left earlier that morning with the few boxes I cared to keep. I told no one where I was going, not even my friends from college. I just left. My new job was in Seattle. Clean start, new coast, no history. I got settled fast. I was too used to being alone for loneliness to slow me down. Within a month, I had a new routine, a quiet apartment, and peace for the first time in years. No text about overdue bills. No guilt tripping. Just silence. But back home, they were spiraling. My mom started calling daily, then texting. When I didn't respond, she switched tactics. She emailed me. She reached out to one of my old professors. She even messaged a few of my friends on Instagram. Every message sounded more desperate than the last. My dad? He didn't say anything directly. But I heard from a neighbor, Mr. Flanders, the retired guy who lived 2 doors down from my parents and always used to wave when I mowed their lawn, that there were arguments almost every night now. Shouting. Slamming doors. My mom crying on the porch. The second mortgage payment missed. Then a third. Eventually, foreclosure notices showed up. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I hadn't planned for it to go this far. But I also wasn't going to be their human shield anymore. The last straw came in the form of a letter. It arrived in Seattle 2 months after I'd moved. No return address, but the handwriting was my mom's. Inside, 2 pages. One was a photo of me at 6 years old, holding up a Lego spaceship with a toothy grin. The other was the note. We don't know what we did wrong. If we were too hard on you, we didn't mean to be. We thought you were strong. Stronger than us. I'm sorry. Please come home. Or at least tell us where you are. Love, Mom. I sat with that letter for hours. Read it. Reread it. And for the first time in a while, I cried. Not because I forgave her, but because she finally noticed. For once, she saw the crack she helped make. And then, almost as if the universe was waiting for that moment, I got a call. From a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. It was Marcus. He didn't yell. He didn't whine. He just said, Leo. Dad's in the hospital. He collapsed. Stress-related, the doctors think. Mom's barely holding it together. She won't eat. I know things got bad. I know you're hurt. But please, just talk to them. Please. I was silent. Then he added, quieter this time, they're losing everything. And they think they've already lost you. And that's when I realized something. They weren't losing me. They'd already lost me a long time ago. They just never noticed until the safety net was gone. I looked out my window at the city skyline, at the space I had built without them, and whispered, mostly to myself. They only noticed when I left. Marcus was still waiting for my answer. I didn't answer right away. Marcus stayed on the line, silent on the other end, probably hoping I was just gathering my thoughts. But I wasn't. I was sitting there staring at my reflection in the window, this tired, older version of the kid they once forgot to clap for. I finally said, he's in the hospital? Marcus exhaled, like I'd just broken the ice on a frozen lake. Yeah, high blood pressure, stress, maybe something with his heart. They're still running tests. He collapsed in the kitchen. Mom found him. I waited a few seconds. Is he okay now? They're keeping him overnight. Mom's with him. She hasn't left his side. I could picture it. Her crying in the corner, wiping her face with a tissue pulled from the bottom of her purse, clutching the hospital bracelet like it was a rosary. And my dad, trying to play tough in a stiff hospital bed, probably still acting like this was all just a fluke. Like none of it was connected to years of denial, pressure, and depending on a son he never made space for. Marcus was still talking, his voice low now. Look, I get that they messed up. Okay, I do. They messed up with you, Leo. I didn't even see it until you left. Everything just fell apart. I almost said something sarcastic, something biting, like, yeah, life without a doormat is hard. But I didn't. Instead, I said, you saw it. You just didn't care. He was quiet. That one hit. Then he said, you're right. Just like that. No defense. No excuse. I should have spoken up more. I should have noticed. I guess I liked being the favorite. Didn't want to rock the boat. I'd waited a long time to hear that. Longer than I realized. But the problem was, it didn't fix anything. The scar was still there, stitched over too many years of quiet birthday disappointments, missed recognitions, and constant comparisons. I let the silence hang between us a little longer before asking, why are you really calling me, Marcus? He paused. I don't know. Maybe I thought, if anyone could calm them down, it'd be you. They're scared. Dad's scared. And Mom keeps saying your name like a prayer. She thinks if you'd just come back, things would start making sense again. That part almost made me laugh. Now I was their solution? I said, did she think saying my name would keep the lights on? Did she think remembering me now would pay off the mortgage? He didn't answer, so I kept going. You want to know why I left? Not just the graduation. Not just the years of being the backup singer in Marcus's solo act. I left because I finally saw the truth. They never saw me. Not as a person, just as a role. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one they could lean on and forget about. I was only valuable when I was useful. I could hear his breathing on the other end. He wasn't arguing anymore. He was listening. The day I graduated, I continued. I realized they hadn't forgotten to get me a gift. They hadn't forgotten to celebrate. They had remembered exactly what they thought of me. And that generic card? That slap on the back? That was the clearest thing they've ever said. Another long pause. Then Marcus, in a voice that barely sounded like him, whispered, so what now? And that was the question I'd been asking myself for weeks. What now? Do I come rushing back to be the emotional life raft for the parents who only noticed me when I stopped being their cushion? Do I let their panic reel me in like a fish they threw back years ago, now suddenly craving its taste again? Or do I let them sit in it? The weight of absence, the consequence of years spent praising the wrong son? So I said calmly, now they learn what life looks like when the person they forgot becomes someone they can't reach. Marcus didn't fight me on it, didn't beg. He just said, okay, I get it. Just, if you change your mind, let me know. And then he hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat in that moment like it was a warm bath. It was the first time I felt like I was choosing me. The next day, I called the mortgage lender. I asked them to officially remove my name from the account. It took some back and forth, but since the payments had been delinquent and I hadn't signed the renewal paperwork they'd sent a month ago, I was legally in the clear. Then I blocked every family member except Marcus. A week passed, then another. I didn't get a single message, just quiet. Unsettling, eerie silence from the people who used to send guilt texts like clockwork. Until one evening, just as I was settling into bed, I got an email. Subject, From Mom. It wasn't long. Just a few lines. I understand now. We broke something, and I don't know if it's fixable. But if it ever is, just know we'll be waiting. No strings. No guilt. Just waiting. Love always. I didn't reply to the email. Not that night. Not the next day. I let it sit, like a letter found in the bottom of an old drawer, yellowed and fragile, too late to do what it was meant to do. But the thing about forgiveness, real forgiveness, is that it's not about saying it's okay. It's not about pretending the wound didn't happen or wrapping it in duct tape and calling it healed. It's about choosing not to carry the weight anymore, even if the scar stays. 2 months passed after Marcus's call. My job in Seattle kept me busy. I settled into a rhythm. Early mornings, strong coffee, and walks around the city after work where no one knew my name. And I didn't have to be anyone's responsible one. I was just Leo. Just me. I didn't think about going back. Not because I hated them, but because I was finally living a life that wasn't an apology. Then, one gray Saturday morning, I woke up to a voicemail. From Marcus. His voice was tight. Tired. Hey, Dad's home now. He's okay, but not the same. They lost the house. Foreclosed last week. They're staying with Aunt Cheryl in the basement. It's rough. I think they finally get it. I mean, I don't know if it fixes anything, but they're different. Quiet. Like, really quiet. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but they still talk about you. Every day. There was a pause. Then, I think you won, Leo. I think they finally saw you. I didn't know how to feel. I sat with those words, repeating them in my mind like a loop. I think you won. But revenge had never really been the goal. Recognition was. I wanted them to see me. Not through the lens of what I could do for them, but for who I was. For what I carried. For the effort it took to always be the one who made life easier for everyone else while getting scraps in return. I didn't call Marcus back, but I thought about what he said. And 3 days later, I booked a flight. I didn't tell anyone. I just landed, rented a car, and drove straight to Aunt Cheryl's. It was raining. Of course it was. Her house was smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown. Funny how that happens when you finally leave. I parked across the street and sat in the car for a long time, watching the lights inside flicker behind half-drawn blinds. I could see silhouettes, people moving, a shadow near the window, a plate being passed at the dinner table. Then I got out, crossed the street, and knocked. Aunt Cheryl answered. She blinked like she was seeing a ghost. Leo. Her voice cracked. I nodded. Is it okay if I come in? She opened the door without a word and stepped aside. The house smelled like pot roast and old carpet. Familiar. Tense. I walked in slowly, down the narrow hallway, into the kitchen where I could hear silverware clinking. And then I saw them. My mom was sitting at the table, her back to me. My dad was across from her, thinner than I remembered, shoulders slouched like a balloon half deflated. Marcus was next to him, looking up as I entered. My mom turned, and for a second, she didn't speak. No one did. She stood up so slowly, it was like she wasn't sure her legs would work. Then, quietly, Leo, I nodded once. Didn't smile, didn't cry, just said, Hi, Mom. She covered her mouth with her hands. My dad didn't move. His eyes were locked on mine, red-rimmed and full of something I hadn't seen in years. Not pride, not anger, grief. We didn't know if we'd ever see you again, my mom whispered. I know, I said. Marcus stood up. I'll give you guys a minute. He left the room, and Cheryl followed, closing the door gently behind her. It was just the three of us now. No one knew what to say. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. I don't even know where to start. Try the beginning, I said. He nodded. Okay, the beginning. He looked at his hands. We failed you, Leo. We really did. That made my mother sob. He kept going, voice trembling. We treated your reliability like permission to ignore you. We leaned on you, expected you to carry everything, and when you did, we acted like it was just your job. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. Marcus was always louder, more in your face. You were quieter, steadier. We thought you didn't need anything from us. I said, everyone needs something. My mom finally stepped closer, wringing her hands. We can't undo what we did, but I want you to know we know now. We see it. We see you. And I don't care if you never forgive us. I just needed you to know we're sorry. There it was. Not a perfect fix. Not a magic rewind. Just truth. I nodded again, slowly. Then I said something I didn't expect to hear myself say. I forgive you. My mom burst into tears. My dad's head dropped into his hands. But I added, forgiving isn't forgetting. Things won't go back to how they were. I'm not the son who pays the bills and takes the blame anymore. I'm not your second choice. I'm not your afterthought. I'm just me now. And if you want a relationship with me, it has to be real, equal, respectful. They both nodded, fervently, like they'd just been handed a lifeline. We talked for hours that night. Not about the mortgage or the graduation or even the years of neglect. Just about life. About who I'd become. About who they were finally learning to be. I didn't stay the night. I said goodbye, hugged my mom tightly, shook my dad's hand. Yes, shook it, and walked out into the rain. As I drove away, windshield wipers thumping gently, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Light. Free. Not because they had changed, but because I had. Because I had drawn the line. Walked away. Stood tall. And when I came back, it was on my terms. The prodigal son didn't return home broken. He came back rebuilt. And for the first time in my life, they finally saw that. The story ends here not with vengeance, but with vindication. Not with a collapse, but with clarity. And sometimes, that's the best kind of revenge. Not watching them fall apart, but watching them grow up. My name is Emma, and I'm 27 years old. I've lived in this city for almost 3 years now, and as much as I love it, there are things about it that make me want to tear my hair out. One of the main things? My roommate, Chloe. I met Chloe when I first moved here. I had just graduated and was eager to start my career, but the job market was brutal, and rent prices in this city are nothing short of ridiculous. Finding a place that was both affordable and close to work was practically impossible. So when Chloe posted on her roommate website saying she was looking for someone to share a 2-bedroom apartment, I jumped at the chance. She seemed fine at first. Friendly, helpful, and everything appeared to be perfect. She was older than me by about 5 years, but we had some similar interests, like a love for takeout food and a shared distaste for early mornings. The apartment was in a great location, near cafes, parks, and only a few blocks from my office. It was everything I could have asked for, and I was willing to overlook a few quirks about Chloe in order to stay there. But over time, the cracks started showing. At first, it was the little things. Chloe would leave dishes in the sink for days, never paying her share of the bills on time, and occasionally, I'd come home to find the place a complete mess. I'd bring it up to her, and she'd apologize, promising to do better. But things never really changed. I started doing more of the cleaning, picking up her slack, and paying a bit more for utilities just to keep things running smoothly. What made it worse was that she was always around, working from home most of the time, lounging on the couch, or inviting people over at odd hours. And the worst part? She never respected my boundaries. She'd barge into my room without knocking, leave her stuff scattered in common areas, and use my things without asking. I could have left. In fact, I almost did a few times. But the location of this apartment was just too perfect. It was close to everything I needed. My work, my friends, my gym, even the grocery store was just around the corner. And as much as Chloe was a hassle, I told myself it was worth it. Plus, I wasn't exactly in a position to be picky. The city's rental market was still insanely expensive, and finding a new place wasn't something I could afford at the time. But then came the breaking point. It started with the phone call from my landlord. I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary when I picked up, but the moment I heard the landlord's voice, I knew something was off. "Hey Emma, this is Greg, your landlord. I just wanted to let you know that your roommate, Chloe, called me earlier today. She told me that you were moving out." I froze. My mind raced, trying to process the words I'd just heard. Chloe had told the landlord I was leaving? That didn't make sense. I had no intention of moving out. In fact, I had just signed a new lease with her a few months ago. I'm sorry, Greg, but that's not true. I stammered, trying to stay calm. "I'm not moving out. I didn't tell anyone that I was." Greg didn't seem convinced. "Well, she was pretty clear about it. She said she couldn't handle living with you anymore and that she thought it was better if you left." I felt a rush of anger and disbelief. Chloe was lying to the landlord? I couldn't believe it. I had no idea why she'd be doing this, but I knew one thing for sure. It was time to confront her. I hung up the phone, my heart racing. My first instinct was to rush home and demand an explanation from Chloe. I had a million questions running through my mind. Why would she do this? Was she trying to kick me out on purpose? And what did she mean by she couldn't handle living with me anymore? I had always been respectful and patient with her. Sure, we'd had our disagreements, but we were roommates. This was normal, right? When I got home, Chloe was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I walked in, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "You okay?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You look a little stressed." I didn't beat around the bush. "Chloe, what is going on?" "I just got off the phone with Greg, and he told me you called him saying I was moving out." Her expression didn't change. She put her phone down slowly, as if she was considering her next words carefully. "Yeah, well, I just thought it'd be easier if you weren't living here anymore. I've been trying to tell you that this place is too much for you. You're always complaining about how much you hate it, and honestly, it's been affecting my mood. You're not exactly the best roommate, Emma." I felt anger. "What are you talking about? I'm not the one who's been making this place a mess, Chloe. You're the one who never cleans up after yourself, doesn't pay bills on time, and uses my things without asking. I've been trying to make it work, but this is too much." She shrugged, almost casually, as if none of it was her fault. "Look, I found someone else who can move in. They're a lot easier to live with, and honestly, I think you'd be better off on your own. You've been struggling here, and I'm just trying to help." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was blaming me for everything, painting me as the problem, when in reality, she was the one making life unbearable. I felt a surge of frustration and anger, and without thinking, I snapped. "I'm not moving out, Chloe. You don't get to make decisions for me, and you sure don't get to lie to the landlord. I'm staying here, and I'll be speaking to Greg myself to clear this up." Her eyes narrowed, and she stood up slowly, towering over me in a way that felt almost intimidating. "You're not going to win this, Emma. I already told him, and he's going to listen to me. It's over for you." I felt my heart race, but there was something inside me, a mix of frustration and determination, that told me this wasn't over yet. Chloe had made a huge mistake. She didn't know who she was dealing with. I knew what I had to do, but little did I know, this was just the beginning. The next few days were a whirlwind. After my conversation with Chloe, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to act fast. The way she shrugged off the situation, as if she held all the power, really got to me. But what hurt the most was that she had the audacity to lie to the landlord about me, painting me as the problem in our living situation. That wasn't something I was going to let slide. I knew I had to call Greg, the landlord, and explain everything. I couldn't just let Chloe get away with her manipulation. I wasn't going to be the one pushed out of my own home. Not like this. The next morning, I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and called Greg. He picked up on the first ring. "Hey, Emma, what's going on?" Greg's voice was calm, but I could tell there was a hint of tension beneath it. It was as if he had some kind of understanding about what was going on, but wasn't quite ready to confront Chloe himself. "Hi, Greg. I wanted to talk to you about the conversation I had with you the other day. Chloe called you, right? Telling you I was moving out." I asked, trying to keep my voice even, but I could feel the frustration bubbling under the surface. "Oh yeah," Greg replied, sounding slightly uneasy. "She mentioned that you were leaving, but I didn't get the full details. She told me it was your decision, and I assumed everything was fine. I didn't think you'd be upset about it." "Upset?" I let out a short laugh, though there was nothing funny about the situation. "Greg, I'm not upset. I'm furious. Chloe lied to you. She's the one trying to kick me out. I never said I wanted to leave. She's trying to get rid of me, and I don't even know why. She's been making this place miserable for months. She's irresponsible. She never pays her share of the bills on time, and she has zero respect for me. She's not the good roommate she made herself out to be, and now she's trying to manipulate you to cover for her. She doesn't want me here because she can't control me." I could almost hear Greg's brain processing everything I said. There was a long pause before he spoke again, and when he did, his voice was a bit more serious. "I see. That's definitely not what I was told, but I believe you. I don't tolerate lying or manipulation in my properties. I'll be honest, I was considering letting her stay, but if she's making things this difficult for you, I'll have to think about what's best for both of you." I felt a sense of relief. Finally, someone was listening. "I don't want to make this a bigger issue than it needs to be," I said, keeping my voice calm. "But I just want to stay here. This place is everything to me, and I can't afford to move out. I don't want Chloe to be here anymore. I think it's best if she's the one to leave." Greg hesitated for a moment, then replied, "All right, I'll call Chloe in and talk to her myself. I don't want any more trouble with this. You're a good tenant, Emma. I've never had any issues with you. Let me handle this from here." I hung up the phone with a strange mix of relief and anxiety. It wasn't over yet. The hardest part was still to come. Chloe would have to be told that she was the one who was out. I paced around my apartment, still in disbelief that this was actually happening. Chloe had been my roommate for almost 2 years, and now everything was falling apart. I had no idea what was going to happen next, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. The next few hours felt like they dragged on forever. I couldn't focus on anything. Every little sound outside my door made my heart race, and I found myself glancing at my phone every few minutes, hoping to hear something from Greg. But it wasn't until around noon when I finally got the call. "Hey, Emma, it's Greg," Greg said when I answered. "I've spoken to Chloe. I'll be honest, she was furious when I told her that I'd been in contact with you. She tried to argue, but in the end, it wasn't even a close call. I've already told her she needs to find a new place to stay. I won't tolerate her lying to me or creating a toxic environment for the tenants in my building." I almost couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, Chloe was finally being held accountable for her actions. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice full of disbelief. "Yeah, I'm serious. I told her she's got 2 weeks to move out. She wasn't happy about it, but there's no other way around it. I'm doing what's best for everyone involved," Greg confirmed. I felt a rush of triumph mixed with relief. Chloe was finally getting what she deserved. She had caused so many issues for me, and now it was over. I wouldn't have to deal with her manipulation and chaos anymore. But little did I know, Chloe wasn't going to go down without a fight. That afternoon, I received a text message from her. It was short and to the point. "You're going to regret this, Emma. You think you've won, but you haven't." I didn't even bother to respond. The way she was acting just confirmed what I'd already known. She was a toxic person, incapable of taking responsibility for her own actions. She was trying to manipulate me until the very end, and now it was all falling apart for her. The next few days passed in a blur. Chloe packed up her things with all the grace of a petulant child, throwing sharp glances in my direction whenever I was near. It was almost surreal to see her so upset over something that she'd caused herself. But as she packed up her things, I felt a strange sense of vindication. The apartment, once filled with tension, was finally starting to feel like mine again. Then came the new roommate. I was a little nervous at first. After all, the whole situation with Chloe had been so chaotic, and I wasn't sure what to expect from someone new. But when the doorbell rang and I opened it to find a calm, collected woman in her early 30s with a warm smile, I knew this was going to be a positive change. Her name was Lily, and she was a breath of fresh air compared to Chloe. She immediately put me at ease with her easygoing nature and polite demeanor. Over the next few days, we got to know each other a little better. Lily was respectful, clean, and genuinely kind. I could tell she was looking for a peaceful living situation, and that made all the difference. However, things weren't quite as peaceful for Chloe. She didn't take the news well. Every time I ran into her on the way to the elevator or in the hallway, she shot me a cold, resentful look. It was clear that she still couldn't accept the fact that she was the one being kicked out, not me. "I can't believe you went behind my back like that," she spat at me one afternoon as she was leaving with the last of her belongings. "You think you're so much better than me? You're going to regret this, Emma. You have no idea what you've just done." I was done listening to her. "Chloe, you're the one who made this impossible," I said, trying to keep my cool. "You lied, manipulated the landlord, and made living here a nightmare for both of us. You got exactly what you deserved." Her face turned red with fury, but she didn't say anything else. She stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, a sense of finality settling in. I was free. The apartment that had once felt like a prison had now become a peaceful haven once more. And as for Chloe, I was done with her. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her toxic energy back into my life. But little did I know, Chloe had other plans. A few days passed, and things seemed to settle down. Lily, my new roommate, was a joy to live with. We had a couple of chats about work, life, and how we both had our fair share of difficult roommates in the past. It felt like a fresh start, and I was grateful for it. But as much as I tried to move on and put the whole situation with Chloe behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wouldn't let me get away with this so easily. Chloe wasn't the type to just walk away quietly. She had made that perfectly clear in her last angry words, and I couldn't help but wonder what she might do next. It didn't take long for her plans to start unfolding. It was about a week after she moved out when I got a call from Greg. My heart dropped as I answered the phone. Hey, Emma, it's Greg. We've got a situation. I immediately tensed. What happened? Is everything all right with the apartment? Well, not exactly. Chloe. Well, she's been trying to stir up trouble, Greg said, his voice tinged with frustration. She's been making some pretty serious accusations against you to the building manager, saying that you've been harassing her and causing issues in the building. She's even threatened to get legal involved if something isn't done about it. I felt a sickening knot tighten in my stomach. What? Are you serious? Yeah. She's claiming you've been spreading rumors about her to the other tenants, and now she's demanding compensation for the emotional distress she's been under since moving out. She's saying that you made her feel unsafe here. Are you kidding me? I felt a rush of anger, but I forced myself to stay calm. Greg, I haven't done any of that. I haven't even spoken to her since the day she left. This is all made up. I know, Emma. I don't buy it for a second, but I need to know that you're not going to escalate things. I'm going to talk to her, but I just wanted you to know what's going on, Greg explained. I don't want this to turn into a bigger mess than it already is. Let me handle it. I thanked Greg, but I couldn't help but feel a little shaken. Chloe's behavior was getting even worse than I had expected. She was trying to turn everyone against me, twisting the narrative to make herself seem like the one who had been wronged. I wasn't about to let her succeed. The next few days were filled with more chaos than I would have liked. Chloe started showing up at the building almost every other day, standing in the lobby or even knocking on my door, trying to confront me. Every time she did, I'd just ignore her, keeping the door shut and locking the chain to prevent her from getting in. The last thing I wanted was to engage with her, but I could hear her outside, shouting, banging on the door, demanding answers. It was clear she had no intention of letting this go. I had to do something. I couldn't let Chloe ruin my peace again. I decided it was time to take action. I gathered every piece of evidence I had. Texts, screenshots of emails, recordings of her ranting when she was still living here. Anything I could find that would show just how unhinged she had been during our time as roommates. I even reached out to a few of the other tenants, just to make sure no one had heard or seen anything that could back her story. I wasn't going to let Chloe twist the truth any longer. The final straw came when Chloe showed up at the building office. I had just come back from work and was walking through the lobby when I saw her speaking with the building manager, Karen. I could see that Chloe was crying, her eyes red and puffy. Karen looked sympathetic, but I could tell she wasn't entirely convinced by Chloe's act. Are you sure about this? Karen was asking Chloe, her voice soft but skeptical. I mean, we haven't had any complaints about Emma, and from what I understand, you were the one who left in a hurry, not the other way around. Chloe's voice was high-pitched, shaking with fake emotion. I didn't leave in a hurry. Emma, she took everything from me. She turned the landlord against me. She's been stalking me, following me, trying to ruin my reputation. I don't feel safe anymore. I'm scared to even leave my apartment. I need help. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up to the counter and stood right next to them, my presence enough to make Chloe snap her head in my direction. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice steady, but laced with anger. Chloe, you need to stop this. I'm not going to let you get away with making up lies to ruin my life. You're the one who lied to Greg. You're the one who tried to kick me out of this apartment for no reason other than your own selfishness. And now you're spreading rumors to anyone who will listen. Chloe's eyes widened. I'm not lying. You're lying, I interrupted, cutting her off. And I'm done with it. You can keep trying to play the victim, but it's not going to work. I've got everything I need to prove what really happened. If you want to escalate this, I'll take it to court. I'll make sure the truth comes out. Chloe faltered for a second, her smug expression wavering as she realized I wasn't intimidated by her antics anymore. Karen, thankfully, stepped in. I think that's enough, Chloe. I don't appreciate these kinds of accusations without any solid proof. Emma, we'll have a look at everything you've provided and make sure this situation is handled properly. Chloe's face turned bright red, and I could see her jaw tighten. She was losing control of the situation, and I wasn't about to let her regain any ground. This isn't over, Emma, she spat, her voice low and threatening. Actually, I think it is, I said, my voice cool and collected. You're not getting away with this. And if you keep trying to cause trouble, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. With that, I turned to leave the office, walking away with my head held high. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt in control. But as I walked back to my apartment, my phone buzzed with a new text from Chloe. You'll regret this. Just wait. I shook my head, rolling my eyes. It seemed like she was only digging herself deeper. She learned nothing. Chloe was evicted long ago, and with that, I thought I could finally breathe a little easier. I managed to cut all ties with her. No more calls, no more texts, and no more surprise visits to the building. It was over, and the sense of relief was almost palpable. A few weeks passed, and things started to feel normal again. Lily and I settled into a comfortable rhythm as roommates. We shared laughs over dinner, exchanged stories from work, and bonded over the little things that made life enjoyable again. I started to forget what it felt like to constantly be on edge, worrying about Chloe's next move. Greg, the landlord, was a quiet ally in all of this. After the eviction, he made it clear that Chloe would no longer be allowed to rent in any of his properties. The other tenants were also made aware of the situation, and while some of them seemed to take Chloe's side at first, they soon saw through her lies when the truth came to light. It wasn't long before she became a cautionary tale, a reminder to everyone that not everyone in the world could be trusted. And Chloe? Well, she quickly learned that trying to manipulate others to get what she wanted didn't work in the real world. After being kicked out of the building, she tried to make her way into another apartment complex, but her reputation preceded her. When she showed up to view a new place, the building managers contacted Greg. They wanted to know about her history as a tenant, and Greg didn't hesitate to warn them. Word spread, and soon, Chloe was finding it harder and harder to get a place to stay. She became the kind of person people avoided, and her attempts to make life difficult for me became nothing more than a distant memory. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I had to keep looking over my shoulder. I was free. I was living my life again, unburdened by the toxicity Chloe had tried to bring into my world. But Chloe, of course, wasn't done causing drama. One day, I heard from one of the other tenants that she'd been trying to contact them, asking for help to get back on her feet. She had apparently run into some financial trouble after being evicted, and now she was trying to play the sympathy card. People weren't buying it, and no one gave her the time of day. She was still burning bridges everywhere she went, and by the time I heard about it, I couldn't help but shake my head. I couldn't help but feel a little bit of pity for her. She was clearly lost, still holding on to this idea that the world owed her something. Maybe, deep down, she would realize that playing the victim only got her so far. But I couldn't let that be my problem anymore. Lily and I took a trip to the beach a month later, a mini vacation to celebrate getting through the chaos. It was the kind of peaceful day I had been craving for so long. No drama, no toxic people, just the sun and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. It felt like a fresh start, and for once, it wasn't just an escape, it was a new chapter. Life was getting better. I was rebuilding my trust in others, slowly but surely. Chloe was a thing of the past. Her attempts at revenge had backfired, and now she was just another person who would eventually fade into the background. I wasn't about to let her be a part of my future anymore. My world was moving forward, and it was better than it had been in a long time. And so, with Chloe out of the picture and no more drama to deal with, I finally found peace. A real peace. One where I didn't have to look over my shoulder or worry about the next shoe to drop. And for that, I was grateful. Let me know your thoughts on this whole situation.